Virtual meetings, virtual events are integral to our lives these days. I'm sure you all agree with this. For a simple reason, we are living in a pandemic era. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTube family. My name is Abhishek Singh, and I welcome you all to my YouTube channel, Muscles and Motivation Academy. Today, I'm here to give you 5 tips, not just one, not just two, 5 easy tips which will ensure that you have a great virtual meeting. So let's get started. Tip number 1, lighting. Yes, lighting is not just important, it's a pivotal component of a successful online virtual meeting. Make sure that the light hits your face, not the camera. The light should hit your face, not the camera. The best way is to buy a simple tripod which you can fix on your table or simply stand on a floor. Alright? If you don't want to do that, you want to harness the natural light, make sure the window is opposite to your face, not on your background. That will ensure that the light falls on your face, not on the camera. It's a pretty basic and a pretty simple trick which I'm sure most of you know, but some of you are not implementing. If you're not doing so and if you're not aware, start doing right away. All right? At times it happens that there is too much light, too much of bright light. So what to do? Every day you cannot shift your locations within the work from home office. Well, there is a solution to that. You can use filters. Let me simplify it further. You can use curtains. When the bright light is there, when there is too much of light, simply pull the curtains. It will act as a filter, and you will appear more professional and correct, in that virtual meeting. So make sure you have right lighting conditions when you have to switch on your video for a virtual meeting. So that was our tip number 1. Tip number 2 is something which most of the virtual meeting participants miss out, and that's the eye level. Guys, whenever you are having a virtual meeting and you are supposed to switch on your video, try and understand the camera level should be on your eye level. You would never want to look down when your video is on. You would never want to look up when your video is down. Okay? So that is something which makes a lot of difference between a regular virtual meeting and a great virtual meeting. You have to make sure that your camera is on your eye level. Imagine a situation, I'm talking to you one-on-one in a real physical environment, and I'm looking like this to you, looking down at you or looking up at you. Understand, essentially the same thing is happening in the virtual platform as well. So that was our tip number 2, eye level. All right. What is tip number 3? Audio. Most of us use a headphone or a Bluetooth connected headphone or some other form of a headphone. Unfortunately, many a times, after connecting that audio output, our voice delivery actually comes down. All right. So make sure when you are using an audio output, when you are using a mic during a meeting, especially when you are presenting, when you are delivering a speech or a presentation, always cross check that, hey, am I audible? Are you guys able to hear me loud and clear? If there is a glitch, if there is a gap, people will call this out that, hey, you're not audible. Can you come a little closer to the mic? So forth and so on. So that was our tip number 3, audio. Most of the laptops, one more point, most of the laptops these days, they have some good mic. So without the earphone, they catch our voice in a great way, in a much better way than the audio output when we use. So make sure you are cognizant of this and always double check whether your voice is audible or not. So that was our tip number 3. Tip number 4 is internet. Make sure when you're going for a virtual meeting, when you have to switch on your video, you are having a great bandwidth, because switching on the audio, switching on the video, especially video, literally eats up your network, literally eats up your so-called bytes. So that becomes even more important. You have to ensure that your bandwidth is correct. If you are using a Wi-Fi, try to go closer to the Wi-Fi, or the other way around if possible. The best way is to have a proper LAN connection. The wired connections, in my experience, I'm not an IT guy by the way, but the LAN connections, when you directly literally insert the wire in your laptop, they always work better. That is what my experience is. All right. So make sure you have a great bandwidth, a proper network, so that the audience never faces that transmission glitch while you are presenting or speaking. Fifth and last tip is perhaps something which we all want to be cognizant of: background. A normal background like this, what you see in my background right now, or a virtual background. See, when you're not using a virtual background, it becomes even more important to have a good background. So right now, if you look at this frame, while I'm recording this YouTube video, you can see that there is a wall behind my seat. Okay, it means that nobody can come from behind. At times it becomes embarrassing for people that someone has come from behind in not so good condition, and then you have to switch off your video. At times it gets missed also. Make sure you create those situations, especially before presenting, before switching on the video, that things like this can be avoided. All right. So background becomes even more important. If you want to use a virtual background, that can definitely be done. We are in a virtual world, and at times we are into a theme meeting that everyone has to have that virtual background. Make sure you select and activate that virtual background before switching on the video. Many a times, because of the virtual background, the data consumption increases, the internet consumption increases. Therefore, it is even more important to have a better bandwidth. All right. So guys, I will not take your time any further. These were 5 tips which I wanted to share with all of you. Let me very quickly summarize all the 5 tips that we have discussed. Tip number 1, lighting. Tip number 2, eye level. Tip number 3, internet connection. Tip number 4, audio. I think it got flipped. And tip number 5, background. If you address these 5 important integral elements of a virtual meeting or an event, I assure you, you all are gonna have a great virtual meeting. So these were 5 tips. Thank you for watching Muscles and Motivation Academy. My name is Abhishek Singh. If you find this video relevant and useful, please consider subscribing to my channel and share with your friends and family. Have a great evening, have a great afternoon, have a great morning, and see you all soon. Bye-bye.